Mather Field was a United States Air Force base, which was closed in 1993 pursuant to a post-Cold War BRAC decision. It was located 12 miles east of Sacramento, on the south side of U.S. Route 50 in Sacramento County. Mather Field was one of 32 air service training camps established after the United States' entry into World War I in April of 1917. Mather Air Force Base was named after 2nd Lieutenant Carl Spencer Mather, a 25-year-old Army pilot killed in a mid-air collision while training at Ellington Field, Texas, on January 30, 1918. Mather learned to fly in 1914 at the Curtis Flying School in Hammondsport, New York, and became an instructor there at the age of 20. He enlisted as an aviation cadet in August 1917, and as a licensed pilot was commissioned with part of his class as a 2nd lieutenant on January 20, 1918. He continued training to earn a reserve military aviator rating and promotion to 1st lieutenant, but was killed 10 days later. The remainder of his class requested that Mills Field be renamed in Mather's honor. The Mather Air Force Base property has had various post-military uses, including becoming Mather Airport, established in 1995. Some of the land was included in the city of Rancho Cordova when it was incorporated in 2003. Mather Field also now serves as home of the 149th Intelligence Squadron of the 195th Wing Air National Guard. In January 1918, the Department of War sent a cadre of officers to the Sacramento, California area to survey sites for an aviation school. The group decided on a location about 12 miles southeast of Sacramento called Mill Station. An agreement to lease the land to the Army was concluded, and the construction of some 50 buildings began on March 15, 1918. Mills Field, named after the local community, was opened on April 30, 1918. It covered over 700 acres and could accommodate up to 1,000 personnel. Dozens of wooden buildings served as headquarters, maintenance, and officers' quarters. Enlisted men had to camp out in tents. Mather Field's first commander was 1st Lieutenant Sam Berman, who assumed command in March of 1918. The first unit stationed there was the 283D Aero Squadron, which was transferred from Rockwell Field, North Island, California. Only a few U.S. Army Air Service aircraft arrived with the 283D Aero Squadron. Most of the Curtiss Jennies, as they were called, to be used for flight training, were shipped in wooden crates by rail. Mather Field served as a base for primary flight training with an 8-week course. The maximum student capacity was 300. In 1917, flight training occurred in 2 phases, primary and advanced. Primary training consisted of pilots learning basic flight skills under dual and solo instruction. After completion of their primary training at Mather, flight cadets were then transferred to another base for advanced training. With the sudden end of World War I in November 1918, the future operational status of Mather Field was unknown. Many local officials speculated that the U.S. government would keep the field open because of the outstanding combat record established by Mather-trained pilots in Europe. Locals also pointed to the optimal weather conditions in the Sacramento area for flight training. Cadets in flight training on November 11, 1918 were allowed to complete their training. However, no new cadets were assigned to the base. The separate training squadrons were consolidated into a single flying school detachment because many of the personnel at Mather were being demobilized. Flight training activities finally ceased on November 8, 1919. With the end of World War I, in December 1919, Mather Field was closed as an active airfield. However, a small caretaker unit was assigned to the facility for administration. Nonetheless, on December 13, 1919, the United States House of Representatives passed an appropriations bill for $9.6 million for the purchase of additional land at military camps, which are to be made part of the permanent military establishment. Mather Field was allocated $78,000 of this amount. Mather was used by the Aerial Forestry Patrol. It also was used intermittently to support small military units. However, With the return to a peacetime economy, Mather Field were deemed unnecessary as a military training facility, and it was closed on May 12, 1923. The War Department ordered the small caretaker force at Mather Field to dismantle all remaining structures and to sell them as surplus. Throughout the remainder of the 1920s, the War Department leased the vacant land to local farmers and ranchers. Mather Field was reactivated on April 1, 1930 as a subpost to the Presidio of San Francisco and Hamilton Field during the 1930s and of Stockton Field briefly in 1941. Mather, however, had to be refitted with new electrical, water, and telephone lines. Soon, Mather was again alive with activity, though the renovation process could not compare to the original base construction. The airfield served only for aerial force patrol beginning January 8, 1919. It was placed on inactive status in June 1922 and closed again in May of 1923. Then, 7 years later, the airfield was reactivated in April 1930 and once again placed in inactive status in November 1932. It was designated a subpost of the Presidio of San Francisco, May 1935. Designated a subpost of Hamilton Field, May 13, 1935, and designated a subpost of Stockton Field, February 21, 1941. The field was reestablished as a separate post and activated on May 13, 1941. The field area was increased from 872 to 4,418 acres in June 1941. In 1941, Mather Field became the site for advanced navigator training. The Army Air Force's Navigator School began operating on August 2, 1941. Major new construction was completed March 16, 1942. The school consisted of a rigorous 18-week course consisting of instruction in celestial navigation and dead reckoning. To complete the course, cadets were required to spend 100 hours navigating during both local and long-range flights. However, in 1943, Army Air Forces Training Command transferred the Navigator School from Mather Field to Ellington Field, near Houston, Texas. Mather became a twin-engine advanced flying school, training pilots on North American B-25 Mitchell medium bombers. 1944 through 1945, it became an aerial port of embarkation to the Pacific in preparation for the expected transfer of large numbers of men and aircraft from Europe to the Pacific. During the summer of 1945, the 509th Composite Group was transferring from its 2nd Air Force training base at Wendover Army Airfield, Utah. The group landed at Mather prior to embarking on its trans-Pacific movement to Tinian, that's in the Marianas Island chain. During the Cold War, Mather AFB became the sole aerial navigation school for the United States Air Force after its companion navigation schools at Harlingen Air Force Base in Texas and James Connolly Air Force Base, also in Texas, were closed and Ellington was converted into a Joint Air National Guard base, Coast Guard Air Station, and NASA flight facility in the 1960s. The Navigator Training Wing of Air Training Command was responsible for bombardier training beginning in 1946 and later transitioned to undergraduate navigator training, advanced navigator bombardier training, electronic warfare officer training, and weapon systems officer training after the closure of the other navigator training bases. Renamed the Flying Training Wing, the wing initially flew the Convair T-29 for navigator training until 1974, when it was replaced by the Boeing T-43A aircraft. In 1976, following the decommissioning of Training Squadron 29 at Naval Air Station Corpus Christi, Texas, the 323D began training student naval flight officers in the Advanced Maritime Navigation Training Pipeline. U.S. Navy students in this pipeline were destined to fly land-based naval aircraft, such as the Lockheed Orion, Lockheed Ares, and Lockheed EC-130 and Lockheed Hercules aircraft. This resulted in the course being redesignated as Inter-Service Undergraduate Navigator Training. The Navy also activated Naval Air Training Unit, Mather, as the parent activity for Navy instructors, Navy students, and NATO Allied Naval Aviation students assigned to the 323D at Mather. The Marine Aerial Navigation School also relocated to Mather in order to train enlisted United States Marine Corps and United States Coast Guard navigators for Marine Corps KC-130 and Coast Guard HC-130 aircraft. Cessna T-37 aircraft were added to the curriculum in the late 1970s for students destined for high-performance aircraft such as the F-4 Phantom, F-111B, 111, and B-1 Lancer. The 323D continued training navigators and NATO/Allied students and conducting advanced training for radar navigator/bombardiers, electronic warfare officers, and weapon systems operators until it was inactivated on September 30th, 1993. Concurrent with the wing's inactivation, all navigator and maritime navigation pipeline training was moved to Randolph Air Force Base in Texas and consolidated under the 12th Flying Training Wing, which up until that time trained and certified instructor pilots. Mather Air Force Base had a late 1940s, early 1950s radar bomb scoring detachment of the Radar Bomb Scoring Squadron. The Mather General Surveillance Radar Station was established after a second stage of additional lash-up stations and heavy radar equipment was authorized in the fall of 1949. Site L-37 began operation within in June 1950, and the Aircraft Control and Warning Squadron was assigned on January 1st, 1951. By 1960, the station became a joint-use facility with the Federal Aviation Administration, and in 1961, the two height finder radars were removed. The station became part of the San Francisco Air Defense Sector, with the radars providing radar data to the Beale Air Force Base Sage Direction Center via the Burroughs Coordinate Data Transmitting Set at Mill Valley Air Force Station. The 668th was inactivated on September 1st, 1961, and Detachment 2 of the 666th Radar Squadron performed subsequent operations until inactivated on September 1st, 1966. The FAA operates the Mather radar site with Joint Surveillance System. On April 1st, 1958, Strategic Air Command and Strategic Wing, composed of the 72D Bombardment Squadron and Air Refueling Squadron, was assigned to Mather, the latter flying the KC-135 Stratotanker. The strategic wings were formed in the late 1950s as part of SAC's plan to disperse its heavy bombers over a larger number of bases, thus making it more difficult for the Soviet Union to knock out the entire fleet with a surprise first strike. The wing had one squadron of B-52 Stratofortresses with 15 aircraft. 4 of the planes were maintained on 15-minute alert, fully fueled, armed, and ready for combat. The remaining planes were used for training in bombardment missions and air refueling operations. The wing also had a squadron of KC-135 tankers. The 4,134 Strategic Wing was discontinued on February 1st, 1963. The 320BW operated at the Old Bomber Alert Area at Mountain Home Air Force Base from 1969 until the spring of 1975, when it disbanded and the 2 bombers and 2 tankers returned to Mather. Concurrent with the inactivation of the 4,134th, the 320th Bombardment Wing was activated and absorbed its assets. It operated as a tenant unit from 1963 to 1989, initially with the B-52F Stratofortress, before converting in 1968 to the B-52G. The 441st Bombardment Squadron replaced the 72D, and the 904th Air Refueling Squadron was transferred from the 4,134th to the 320th. In addition to SAC nuclear alert, the 320th also conducted conventional operations, including maritime missions in support of the U.S. Navy with aerial mines and Harpoon missiles. The 320th was inactivated on September 30th, 1989. The 940th Air Refueling Group, an Air Force Reserve unit, moved to Mather from McClellan Air Force Base in 1977. With SAC's inactivation in 1992, the unit was then gained by the Air Mobility Command and redesignated the Air Refueling Wing in 1993. Following the closure of Mather, the 940th Wing relocated back to McClellan in 1993. When McClellan closed in 1998, the wing then moved to its current station at Beale. Parts of the airfield were listed on the National Priorities List as a Superfund site on July 22, 1987. The entire site was listed on November 21, 1989. On September 30, 1993, the 5,845 acres, including 129 acres of easements, of Mather was decommissioned under the 1988 Base Realignment and Closure Commission. Most of the base was transferred to Sacramento County. Current sites of the former Air Force Base include Sacramento, Mather Airport, Mather Regional Park Veterans Administration Medical Center, FAA Northern California Terminal Radar Approach Control, and Mather Community Campus, a transitional living facility. And one last note about the natural history of this site. There are rare wetland vernal pools, which are unique to California, and numerous plant and animal species exist on the site that became Mather Air Force Base. The chiefly grassland ecological community continues to hold a considerable number of plants, mammals, birds, and arthropods. Within the plant community are large numbers of native grass and forb species. One example of a native wildflower found here is the yellow Mariposa lily. And there you have it, the interesting history of one of Northern California's Air Force bases lost to time. Thank you to all the soldiers that were stationed here for your service. Be sure to comment, like, and subscribe for more videos like this. And as always, happy trails!